Welcome to the History and Heritage podcast with me, Liam Blake. Join me as we uncover hidden stories and insights that shaped our world. From mysteries to legacies, join us on this journey through time. The Soft-Coated Wheaten Terrier is as Irish as the shamrock, the harp and the potato. So that, dear listener, was a quote from Harold Spira in his book Canine Terminology, which came out in 1982. Born in the stone-walled farms and mist-swept fields of rural southwest Ireland, the soft-coated Wheaten Terrier was never bred for show rings or aristocratic parlours. It was bred, like most Irish dogs, for work and for life. And today, we're taking a walk through the history of this cheerful, wheaten-haired scrapper that has always charmed hearts all the way from Tipperary to Toronto. To understand the Wheaten, you have to picture Ireland in the 18th and 19th centuries, a land of tenant farmers, stone cabins, and long hours spent tilling poor soil under uncertain skies. This was a society built on survival, where everything had to serve a purpose. The dog was no exception. The Wheaten wasn't a toy or a luxury. It was a worker, a guardian, a ratter, a herder, and, at times, a poacher's accomplice. It was bred for function, not fashion. You could find them waiting patiently by the barn door, or asleep under the table by the hearth, sooting his coat from the turf fire. In some cases, he doubled as a child's minder, in others as a nighttime alarm system, barking fiercely when strangers approached at the gate. He was there when the cows were driven in for milking, and again when the chickens needed rounding up. The Wheaten was a fixture of daily life, never a burden, always a help. Yet, this breed had something more. A softness to the coat, a gleam of gold, a warmth in the temperament. That silken jacket, as some early Irish farmers called it, thick, soft and shaggy, was more than distinctive. It was iconic. Something about the Wheaten's look felt noble in its own quiet way, despite its humble surrounding. We don't know the exact ancestry of the Wheaten. Like many rural land races, it evolved out of need and adaptation, not precise pedigrees. But it shares clear bloodlines with the Kerry Blue and the Irish Terrier. All three likely descended from the old working terriers of Ireland, scrappy, sharp-eyed, versatile dogs, used for everything from guarding livestock to dispatching rats in barns. Some believe the Wheaten is the oldest of the Irish Terriers, quietly present for centuries before anyone thought to record its name. And for most of its early life, it had no name. At least not an official one. It was simply the Wheaten dog, or the soft-coated fellow. The language was informal, even affectionate, but that didn't mean the dog wasn't respected. On the contrary, the Wheaten was one of the few things a smallholder could actually rely on. There are early 19th century traveller accounts from Ireland, mostly English or Scottish writers, who mention the prevalence of small yellow terriers that worked tirelessly on rural holdings. These accounts rarely name the breed, but they describe the Wheaten unmistakably. Medium-sized, shaggy, keen-eyed and alert. Dogs that were full of heart, dogs that took on foxes with reckless courage and would swim a flooded river to follow a master's voice. While breeds like the Irish Wolfhound were revived through aristocratic patronage and romantic nationalism in the 19th century, the Wheaten stayed in the shadows. It was the dog of the common man, of the poor farmer, the blacksmith and the dairyman. It didn't need a pedigree, it needed a purpose. In fact, pedigree could be a liability. British rule in Ireland meant that the ownership of certain types of dogs, especially those associated with hunting or poaching such as hounds, could draw suspicion and was even at one stage made illegal. The Wheaten, like the Kerry Blue, was often kept out of formal sight. It was a loyal companion in cottages and on small farms, but it rarely appeared in records, and yet it endured, passed down from generation to generation through local matings and an eye for practical merit. But everything began to change in the 20th century. Irish identity was evolving, and so was the dog world. In 1937, a small group of breeders in Dublin, passionate about preserving this unpretentious terrier, succeeded in getting the breed recognised by the Irish Kennel Club. One of the breed's earliest champions was Dr. G.J. Pearce, whose writings and efforts helped codify the standard and preserve its rustic appeal. In that same year, the Wheaten appeared in St. Patrick's Day show in Dublin. just as the Free State was beginning to define its national symbols. This timing wasn't accidental. As with the Kerry Blue before it, and if you want the story of the Kerry Blue, listen to my previous episode, the Soft-Coated Wheaten Terrier became part of the Irish cultural renaissance, a movement that included literature, music, folklore, and a revival of native emblems like dogs. The Wheaten was no longer just a working dog, it was the symbol of Irish endurance, humble, strong, and joyful. It represented the Irish ideal, not aggressive or haughty, but proud, capable, and unfailingly warm-hearted. The breed made its way, as most Irish things do, to the United States in the 1940s, brought over by Irish immigrants and dog lovers who saw in the Wheaten not just a pet, but a connection to home. These weren't wealthy show dog types. They were families carrying more memories than money. For them, the Wheaten wasn't just a dog. It was a bit of turf, a bit of hay, and, most importantly, a bit of Ireland. The first major ambassador in America was Lydia Vogel of Massachusetts, who in the 1950s began serious efforts to establish the breed in North America. Thanks to her and others, the American Kennel Club officially recognized the Wheaten in 1973. By then, it had already begun to carve out a niche among families who valued its affectionate nature, hypoallergenic coat, and moderate size. And that coat, Wheaten coloured obviously, but also silky and wavy, is the breed's signature. Wheaten puppies are born dark, often a reddish brown or nearly black, and they gradually clear as they age, developing the warm golden beige that gives the breed its name. It's a non-shedding coat, which has made the breed popular among allergy-sensitive households, but it also requires dedicated grooming. Left untended, that coat can mat and tangle. Kept properly, it's one of the most beautiful coats in the dog world. There's even an old joke in Irish-American circles. You can tell a Wheaten owner by the brush in their hand and the hair in their jumper. Grooming is just part of the bond. Physically, they're built for movement, with springy gaits and strong hindquarters, ideal for chasing pests or bounding over hedgerows in Ireland or wherever else in the world you might find one. Their ears are small and carried forward, their eyes dark and expressive, but it's their expression that people remember. That soft beard, those soulful eyes, the tilt of the head that seems to ask, what's next? Their temperament is where they truly shine. Wheatens are famously happy dogs, friendly, exuberant, and affectionate. They're known for what fanciers call the Wheaten's greeting, an enthusiastic, bouncing welcome that sometimes resembles a joyful dance. They're excellent with children, eager to please, and sensitive to tone, making them both endearing and responsive. They do thrive in family life, but can be intense greeters of guests. Some owners joke they don't need a doorbell, just a Wheaten, but they're not pushovers. Like all terriers, Wheatens have opinions. They're independent thinkers, curious explorers, and surprisingly bold when provoked. Without proper training and clear boundaries, they can become too rambunctious or stubborn, but handled well, they're among the most delightful companions you could ever ask for. They tend to get along well with other dogs if properly socialized. However, with cats and smaller animals, early introductions and training are key. They're not aggressive, but their prey drive is real. It's part of their working DNA. Today, the Wheaten is no longer a secret. It's a fixture in dog shows across the world and a beloved family dog in countries from Ireland to Iceland. And this has been massively helped by the very famous influencer Aliliachi's family having a number of them. Health concerns include protein-losing enteropathy, PLE, and nephropathy, PLN, conditions that responsible breeders actively screen for. The Wheaten also has a predisposition to allergies and some skin issues, but with careful breeding and diet management, most live happy, healthy lives to almost 12 or 14 years. The breed community is unusually tight-knit, as with most Irish rare breeds, with passionate owners sharing grooming tips, health updates, and stories that read like Irish tales. Mischievous Wheatens who steal socks, snuggle with toddlers, or outwit their owners in clever ways. And yet, despite its global reach, the Wheaten has never lost its Irish charm. It still feels like a dog of the land, and a dog with the smell of hay in its coat. A dog that remembers what it was to guard a goat, chase a rat, greet a neighbour, and curl by the hearth. Some say the Wheaten doesn't just wag its tail, it wags its whole heart. And maybe that's the secret. This breed carries the spirit of rural Ireland in its bones. A softness without weakness, a loyalty without fuss, a joy without pretense. The soft-coated Wheaten Terrier, as with a lot of Irish dog breeds, is more than just a breed. It's a thread in the fabric of Irish rural life. Warm, tough, golden and good. And that is a story worth telling.